Hey everybody, Todd Dills here for this Overdrive Radio episode for February 23rd, 2026, and with a bit of a different sort of opening than usual for the podcast. Getting ready for the big Mid-America Trucking Show next month, March 26th through the 28th at the Louisville Convention Center. As usual, ready to host our Truck of the Year and cover all manner of the various goings-on at the event. From the Custom Truck Show and the Paul K. Young Memorial Competition to federal and state regulatory panels, trucking business discussions, and all the rest happening at the huge event. It's a big undertaking for just four of us there, but we've got a bit of a secret weapon who this year is an even more integral part of the official Matt's programming. He's the player of the music you hear under my voice now, and which you'll no doubt recognize. He's the songwriter we've featured here too many times to count, and whom regular readers will also know from his stories and tall tales, interviews, oral histories of OTR drivers of all stripes, all published under the Overdrive Extra banner at overdriveonline.com. That writer, that performer, that veritable sage of the road, long-haul Paul Marhofer, will feature with others during the Friday night concert at Matt's this year. He's got a couple records upcoming too, set for release in the coming weeks. One, the After Party Sessions, features live recordings from night shows at various trucking events over the last several years, from Matt's to the Large Cars and Guitars event, Wheel Jam, and many more. Here's a bit of a taste of that one, from a track that is the very first of Marhofer's I ever heard, in fact, when he entered it into Overdrive's Trucker Talent Search music competition more than 10 years ago now.
God gave the ancients wisdom to distill. Somewhere around the Bronze Age, up come a moonshine still. God gave your mama the kind of wall that carry on. She don't want me anymore, said she never will. That's why I drank. That's why I drank. It's a kind of situation, call for a little self-medication. That's why I drank. I say, you know you my baby mama. She said, I don't really care. I said, me and you, we go together with two. We're like Texas and the chair. Talking fat back in Georgia, turnip green, sour mash, Tennessee. She just looked me in the eye.
That talent search entry was how I met him, actually. And he'd go on to place second that year. And his star rose so quickly among owner-operators and drivers in the aftermath that he never competed in it again. No doubt in my mind he would have won it, had he. But he became a real fixture in the performances around the competitors after that, alongside copious writing and reporting he's done for us since, all with a clear desire to tell the stories of others with real care, with faith to their voices, and no small sense of empathy for the struggles we all endure. He's endured plenty himself, as he's chronicled in his writing and as host of our Over the Road podcast back in 2020, which saw air in partnership with the Radiotopia podcast network. Don't miss his performance at Matt's, I'll say. Yet if that show's just not in the cards for you this year, know that he'll be at a variety of other events throughout the year, though somewhat limited compared to prior years, given his father, near Madison, Wisconsin, has needed home care that he and his siblings and other family members have been coordinating.
We're going to try to limit it to one show a month. My dad has gotten very old, and the kids are taking shifts, staying with him. But thankfully, we've been asked to return to the Badger State Trucking Show in Baraboo. We've been asked to return to Wheel Jam and Huron, South Dakota, and all of which, all roads lead through Madison in those cases. And Tony Justice just yesterday asked us to return to Large Cars and Guitars. So we've got 4 shows booked. We're not beating the bushes trying to find shows that people are willing to replace my lost driver's wages, travel, and lodging. I'm open to talking.
That's right. Long haul Paul is the reality for Marhofer, still, if he does call his trucking career at this date a kind of semi-retirement. He still hauls for Ohio-headquartered Muller Trucking and lives with his wife, Denise, in Los Santville, Indiana. The pair, an undisputed force in trucking music and culture. After the break, hear much more from Marhofer than the old Greenstein dirge you hear here. As he talks through tracks from both the new records as well as 2023 and 2024's, respectively, Legends of the Lost Highway and Floodwaters and Fires records. So keep tuned.
Winter doesn't wait, and neither should you. Treat now with Howe's Diesel Treat to prevent your fuel from gelling, and keep using it at every fill-up this winter to make sure you're always running strong when the cold sets in. But if you waited too long to treat your fuel and get hit with a winter emergency, Howe's Diesel Lifeline works fast, reliquefying gelled fuel and de-icing frozen filters to get you moving again. Stay prepared with complete winter readiness from Howe's. Prevention and rescue trusted by drivers everywhere, because downtime isn't an option.
Find much more information about all of Howe's fuel treatments and lubricants, like its Howe's multi-purpose penetrating oil, via the company website. That's Howe's, H-O-W-E-S, Howe'sProducts.com. What Paul Marhofer think first when he was asked to perform as part of the main concert at Matt's this year. Here's Long Haul Paul.
Well, it's a wonderful milestone for us. Affirmation and really kind of a full circle moment. So let's go back to the spring of 1987. I was a fledgling trainee for builder's transport. So basically a mega fleet beginner with about $6 in my pocket, and I'm 8 miles south of where I'll be performing, and I hear Hank Williams for the first time through the tinny PA of a rough cut makeshift truck stop chapel, and I'm just so arrested by every word that's coming out of this PA system. And in that moment, I just, whatever that was, that's what I wanted to do, and that's what I wanted to be. And it was something I'll just never forget. And it's taken all this time, almost 40 years, for that to become actualized, at least in this, I imagine the holy grail to any singing trucker is to stand. Matt's survives as the only remaining Super Bowl of truck shows. I could have made an argument that Gat's booking would have been right up there with Matt's. Pre-COVID. But unfortunately,
big deal.
I'm glad it happened now, Todd. I'm glad it happened when I've reached such a state of decrepitude. The 30-year-old Paul would have self-sabotaged after the first 10,000 streams. But I've, as the great Kentucky author Wendell Berry said, old age has done more for me morally than 1,000 Methodist sermons. So I think it's come along at a good time.
For those who the road is all that matters. For them who have lived on borrowed time. For those who the seeds of life have scattered. For them who are too far down the line. For those who have lived on next to nothing. Playing in some bar in Jacksonville. With nothing but the songs they are singing. And nothing but the space is left to fill. Here's the highway.
You've been quite active since we last kind of featured some of your music in this format. I'm kind of remiss to realize. So I knew this, but I think the last album that we really highlighted on Overdrive Radio and we try to do that for folks that we've followed for a long time as they have new material. But the nature of you and I collaborating kind of routinely and talking all the time about stories and such, I think we don't forget that your music is out there. But the last one that we featured was Corn Belt Cafe, which was 4 or 5 years ago. And since then, you put out a couple of records. There was Legends of the Lost Highway, I think, which was 23, and then the Fires and Floodwaters, which was 24. Did you describe that record to me as a gospel record?
Yeah, it is. Floodwaters and the Fires is the album that I wrote after that near-death experience with the Runaway Duels on Christmas Eve of 23.
Long Haul Paul Marhofer also wrote quite a moving story about it. The dual wheels and tires came screaming across the median and into the front of his truck, bursting one of his steers and sending him back across the median himself and into the oncoming lanes of traffic as he fought to regain some semblance of control, coming to a stop mere feet from a partly frozen over lake in midwinter in Nebraska. Find that story via a link in the show notes or search Runaway Duels Incoming, a Christmas Eve Miracle at overdriveonline.com.
As I sat in that hotel room Christmas Eve, I thought, maybe this would be a time to release that gospel album I've been contemplating. And if I wait until I'm good enough, I'll never release a gospel album. And that was sort of the, I'm not really, I don't go to church that often. I'm, kind of in this feral state of being sort of a road guy, but I needed to do it. I needed to come out with that gospel album when I did, and there was a great journey with that, and a great journey of just trying to define what faith is in my own life, and a rediscovery of that the role of faith in my life as something more than just a thing I once grew up in.
And nothing but the space is left to fill. Here's a highway path. Here's a highway song. Don't stay too late. Don't cry too long. You're coming home. Home again. You can tell them all where you been.
Is that how you're defining gospel music in this case? Because I don't know, Paul. To me, there's certainly the themes of gospel music, but the music stylistically sounds it sounds like a Paul Marhofer record, which is not exactly gospel music.
I will have to cop to having a very broad view of what is sacred.
Sure.
I mean, to me, Leonard Cohen's "Bird on the Wire" is every bit as sacred as "Amazing Grace."
Sure.
Both of which are represented on that album, and so you're right. It's a lot of these songs would probably never be included in a church hymnal, but they were sacred to me.
Try in my way to be free. Like a fish on a hook, like a night in some old-fashioned book. I've saved all my ribbons for thee. And if I've been unkind, I hope you will let it go by.
I will say, and I sort of opened myself to doing more covers on that album. There's a wonderful song on there called Highway Prayer, which I did not write. It was written by a wonderful singer-songwriter out of Texas by the name of Adam Carroll. And Adam Carroll, there's a compilation of his songs, a tribute album, which came out on 830 Records, which is an Austin label. And the people that showed up to pay tribute for Adam Carroll included people like James McMurtry, Ray Wiley Hubbard. I mean, a real pantheon of great Texas songwriters. But just an interesting story about that song. As much of an honor as it is to sing at Matt's this March 27th, I was, while we were recording that album, I was in Muscle Shoals at this cabin where we stay. And I got the call that my old boss, Lee Thornburg, had died. And I was asked by his family to come sing at his funeral. And I said, man, when do you need me up there? And I think Rusty said the funeral's on Friday. I said, oh man, I've got these musicians hired. And I mean, this is so sudden. It was like 3 days from then was the funeral, and I don't think I can get away that quickly. And so they said, well, when can you be here? And I said, how about Tuesday? And so Tuesday I was asked to sing for my old boss, and who became a dear friend. And at a funeral they postponed until I was available. And I would have to say that I don't want to get all misty, but that I don't know if there's anything in my life that will I'm buffering here, that will mean more to me than that honor.
Yeah. And you played?
I played Highway Prayer, and I did Amazing Grace.
I used to like to live on next to nothing. I'm still out here living line to line, living in some old torch singer's memory. Out here on the road to Tennessee, place where all prayers and songs go sailing. I'll say one for you if you sing one for me. Here's a highway prayer, here's a highway song. Don't stay too late, don't cry too long. You're coming home, home again. Gonna tell them all where you been. Highway prayer, a highway song. I won't stay too late, I won't cry too long. I'm coming home.
And Lee was a great hero. When I had my wreck, I could no longer service my debts, and Denise, and it was a horrible time. So in 2001, could no longer service my debts. And Denise and I, we were really just barely married at that point. But the only thing we agreed on was we're not going bankrupt. We're not going bankrupt. My wages were garnished for 7 years, which is just a real act of masochism. And I made my house payment and stuff by lumping everything. But Lee Thornburg, he would say, all right, whatever the lumpers charge you, that's what we'll pay you. And, you know, I would just hope to get with some of those predatory lumping services. And 2 pallets is going to cost you $150, you know. But in the midst of all that, I almost had everything paid off. And I said, I can't do this anymore, man. I got to take bankruptcy. And Lee Thornburg, he said, Paul, I believe, honestly, I believe in you. I believe if you wanted to, you could be the president of the United States. And I believe you could do anything you set your mind to. And I believe you could pay off these garnishments. And that's when Denise started raising cattle. And I can remember, like, we sold a bunch of calves, and we settled the last of our debts, and it was just, there's a physical weight that just fell off of me, and I can remember I told Lee, well, you were right, we got them all paid, and I can remember just going down the road in my $1,200 Ford Ranger, just thinking to myself, yeah, I think I could run this country. So he was the guy that just gave me just a ton of confidence, and it wasn't empty confidence. It was like, if you do the work and you stay the course, you know, good things will come your way, and they may not always come immediately, but you know, he was a great hero of mine, Lee Thornburg, and so I got to sing Highway Prayer at his funeral.
First song on that record is a little bit of a different sort. Did you write that song, 4 Million Miles, 4 Million Miles Deep?
Yeah, that was a song that happened organically in a conversation I had with a 5 million mile truck driver who was told he had 1 year to live, and he said, I've lived past my time. And so he's in this phase in his life where his ability to drive has been, revoked medically, but he was too old to work but too young to die, and he referred to that as the living past my time. I was just so moved by that.
Now you can't hardly sleep, 'cause you've lived past your time. But when you first drove for pay, the boss man made clear 1,000 miles, son, a day. We don't need you around here. So you made it a game, how far you could run, till the nights and the days melted all into one. And it cost you some wives, some friends you held dear. 1,000 miles, son, a day. We don't need you around here.
And so that gentleman's name is Ron Withers, and Ron and I have had a friendship, and so Ron actually makes an appearance in our after party sessions. So we try to foster an open stage environment at our after party shows at Max, and So we have cameos on this album. We have Michael Ronstadt playing Eleanor Rigby or on cello, which is an amazing performance. We have Dave Lowry of the Bennett family of companies playing blues harmonica to one of my songs, and Ron Witherspoon. Besides one of his original poems, Ron has an unbelievable ability to compose poems about life on the road, and these are gritty, Robert Service-esque type poems, and his talent in this regard actually landed him a job as a talk show host on Sirius XM for a while.
I think you said actually that putting out 2 records around the time of Matt's.
One is called the After Party Sessions.
Okay.
It's really, that's almost a collection of field recordings of songs we played after truck shows. And the After Party Session, this whole scene sort of came about after Tony Justice's very first large cars and guitars, because Brandon Carpenter, who is a wonderful builder of custom trucks, he had built a bar out of the back of a stainless steel trailer, and so it functions as a get together and a hangout. And his dream was for people to come play music, and it seems like I'm always kind of hungry. I was just hoping to sell a few more CDs and hats, and so we did an after party show that went till 1 a.m. It was really a small, intimate, wonderful time, and we met people there that have become like, our truck show friends.
Sure.
And it's such an interesting phenomenon about truck shows that a lot of times you see the same people at truck shows all over the country, different parts of the country. Same people. There's people who just go do that. They go to truck shows. That's their thing. Yep. And these after parties at times became so magical in the back of Brandon's trailer there. We got the idea, wouldn't it be wonderful to record some of these songs? And
yep.
It got tough, because once you hire a producer and a videographer, you can't always, the crowd is just like this uncontrollable element. You don't know if people are in a very festive place at these truck shows, and sometimes they can be loud and rambunctious. So we didn't quite get everything we wanted to get in Louisville, so we tried it again in Huron, South Dakota, and I think we got 7 really great cuts, and then we set up again in Tipton, Indiana, near Tipton, Indiana, at a truck show there. So I don't know if I'm going to do another live album ever again, because the editing is so difficult. It's easy to hook up recording equipment to your PA, but it's not easy to polish these tracks and make them sound acceptable. It's the people that record live music are they're a breed under themselves.
Case of Red Bull to keep my demon fed, yeah. I'm going down to Anderson's Ferry for to lose me another load. I'm an old river rat just pushing potash and burning down the bony road.
Beans and Corn there, a Paul Marhofer original with co-writers and fellow truckers both Jerry Novak and Robert Green, featuring, as mentioned earlier, too, the harmonica of Dave Lowry of the Bennett family of companies.
Yeah, most of the songs are original songs. But Michael Ronstadt has that one Beatles song. I think nearly everything else is original besides those 2 cameos. But there are going to be new songs on the live album, and some of the more popular songs from previous albums as well. I've got this song, and Denise. It's so funny about Denise. All the years I was a trucker, we and still am, but it's like she's really gotten on board with this whole music thing. It's a lot of fun for her. But I've got a song on there called "A Seed," which is sort of a trucker's over-caffeinated meditation on a scripture from the book of John, and it's Denise thinks it's the best song I've ever written, and I co-wrote it with a gentleman from the Muscle Shoals area.
A seed ain't nothing but husk and bark, wrapped around an itty-bitty spark, and all it needs is down in the dark, the deep, dark dirt to die. And when it dies, it bears a root, hungry for the light, so it makes a shoot. Then it reaches for the sun in the big blue sky. That's how the corn grows high. And I got a seed that's down in me. Come from Alabama up to Tennessee, up to Indiana back in '53, looking for that Union scale. And I hear that seed deep down in me every time I try and fail. Get up, though you fall. Before you walk, child, you got to crawl. And if you want to be a son of man, you gotta let your little light shine.
But it's sort of a departure. It's kind of I guess it would be sort of a gospel song you probably won't hear in church type song.
So other than the after party, there is another record of studio recordings that you're putting out. What is it called? And just kind of walk me through some of the highlights there, I guess.
The other album is going to be called 1994, The Lost Tapes. And back in the 90s, I had a brother-in-law who had been a folk club owner. Usually at Thanksgiving, Denise's family would ask me to sing them some songs, and her family was really wonderful about just being really enthusiastic about my original songs, and they were always telling me I need to go do something with them. And finally, my brother-in-law, who was a folk club owner, a gentleman by the name of Kent Dragoo, he had a little tape recorder, and I think he might have had a couple external mics. And he said, let's just see if we can record a living room concert. And those tapes surfaced. Oh, yeah, so that tape surfaced a while back. Yeah, they're going to be cleaned up, and there's some, listening to that guy, the 1994 Paul, he sounds just like an embryo. He's so young, and he yodels a lot, and I wish I could just put my arm around him. Oh yeah, lots of yodeling. Yeah. Well, my voice. So this is the multi-trauma accident voice of long haul phone. And it's almost like listening to a completely different person.
This one's from 1994, The Lost Tapes, and is called When God Dips His Pen of Love in My Heart.
His spirit, oh divine, fills this sinful soul of mine. When God dips His love in my heart. Oh, I said I wouldn't tell it to a living soul, how He brought salvation and He made me whole. I found I couldn't hide such a love that Jesus did impart. Oh, it makes me laugh and it makes me cry, sets my sinful soul on fire. When God dips His love in my heart. Oh, He walked every step of Calvary's rugged way.
Hey, the phrasing, I could hear a lot of Nancy Griffith in my phrasing because I was so into Nancy Griffith back then. I hear a lot of Hank Williams. I mean, it's sort of like it hadn't really settled into its own thing, but it had on a few tracks, I sort of feel like.
You know, you're prepping for this performance at Madison. It's going to be a short one, I think, if my memory is right, what you told me the other day. But what are you planning for us? What can folks expect there? And I guess most importantly, is Brandon Carpenter's trailer going to be at Madison? There'll be an after party there that folks can enjoy for a little bit longer, I suppose.
Yes, we do plan on holding an after party event after the Friday show. And, you know, weather permitting, we may be standing outside. Just the crowds can get kind of big, and I get a little claustrophobic if too many people go in that trailer. I just do.
Sure.
But if it's a cold night, we're gonna bring firepower. We're gonna bring Sherman the Shermanator Stockton on his bottleneck slide guitar. We're gonna bring Michael Ronstadt on the cajon and the big fiddle, and we're gonna bring actually a stand-up bass player with us, Jeff Templeton, who's had a footprint on 12 of my albums, the mild-mannered producer, because I want Jeff to see what he has helped to build. And this will be Jeff's very first show with us playing out, although he performs a lot, but he's just never performed with us. And so about every morning for 21 mornings, I have woken up with a timer and tried to figure out what the set will be. And I finally, 2 days ago, just settled on a set. And I didn't feel the need to play that this morning or the morning before. So I think that's the keeper set. And I hope that, I think it's going to be pretty upbeat. I don't think there's going to be time for any dirges this time. Although the dirges will come later at the trailer. But I did ask a lot of people what they thought I should do. And my son John, he said, well, if I were you, Dad, I'd do 3 upbeat songs and 1 soulful ballad. And so they can expect 3 upbeat songs and 1 soulful ballad.
Looking forward to it? I know I am. Finally, Long Haul Paul and I talked a little about the end last week of the long trucking radio career of Dave Nemo, whom Paul has paid tribute to in song on his 2023 Legends of the Lost Highway record, the track called When Nemo Played Hank Williams.
We will definitely be doing a nod to Dave in our show. Because when Nemo is a bona fide musicologist and a student and curator of this subgenre of music. So when he lost music, when XM and Sirius merged and they decided to take away the music from the trucker channel. It's I don't want to be a grievance mongerer, but I am still aggrieved.
You missed the music part of trucking radio, as it were.
Well, my feeling, like, okay, if you take music away from trucking radio to save a few bucks on paying
royalties,
BMI, yeah. It's just it's a metaphor for just what is happening in trucking writ large. They're just going to let's go ahead and take a little bit more away from us. Yeah, we'll be fine out here. But I realize that is a very I really reveal my age by mourning the loss of all night AM radio. But it's almost like these trucks aren't even equipped to receive AM anymore. But it's a difficult thing to you can't understate the outsized importance of the all-night DJ to somebody. I think it was almost like a sacred responsibility those guys had, because they kept the drivers awake and entertained. But I have to own that 80% of the driving population out there has no idea what I'm talking about anymore. This is all very vestigial stuff.
Let me see. There was an old TranStar cab over and a screaming 318, and Nemo was playing Hank Williams deep down in New Orleans. You had your Big John Trimble to the east and Bill Mack to the west. Bozo was blasting out of the north, and Nemo, he took the rest. And he had a grown man named Mule Skinner and Rooster calling in. Oh, that forgotten man in this cold, dark land was Nemo's next of kin. All I ever really wanted as a man was for them good old boys out of Delacroix just to say I'd made a hand. While the lines around my eyes began to show. Nemo, he played your cheating heart on that all-night radio.
Here's a big thanks for listening. We'll let Long Haul Paul take us out through to the end. Overdrive Radio is a production of Overdrive, the voice of the American trucker. It's edited and produced by me, Todd Dills, with the acoustic guitar and other support of the one and only, the great trucker-songwriter Long Haul Paul Marhoefer. The usual theme is Legend of the Snake Man by Marhoefer, featuring the guitar work of Travis with Snake Man herself, Whammick, Terry Two Socks Richardson on bass, keys by Tishomingo Jim Whitehead, and on drums, Andrew Marshall. The podcast is backed up further by Overdrive's own social media coordinator, Jasmine Campbell, senior editor, Matt Cole, executive editor, Alex Lockie, and video editors, Lawson Rudisell and Andrew Gwynn. We'll see you next time.
As the lines around my eyes began to grow, Nemo, he played a house of gold on that all-night radio. So we pulled them stock injectors out, put them blue dot screamers in. You could hear Detroit from miles away when she was stretched out in the wind, just a burning down that old southbound on a shaved down timing pin. And Nemo was playing that old log train just 'cause we asked him to again. All I ever really wanted as a man was for them good old boys out of Delacroix just to say I'd made a hand. Now the lines around my eyes cut deep and low, and they play no more Hank Williams. No, they play no more Hank Williams. No, they play no more Hank Williams on that all-night